Hello, welcome to day 5 of our 19 days of June, our mindfulness series for us busy, busy humans. Um, I have to say, it is early in the morning, it is pre sunrise. So, part of my mindfulness practice is getting to watch dawn slowly creep in out my office window as we do this live, as I record this podcast, as we do this. So I'm so happy to be here. If you are just tuning in for whatever reason on day 5 and you haven't listened to the previous ones, that's okay. You don't need to um, particularly listen to them in order, but you may want to go back and go over them because there's a lot of goodness in what we've done so far in days 1 to 4. And the point is to layer in these itty bitty practices of mindfulness as we go. So I mentioned way at the beginning of this, I've mentioned at the beginning of this conversation today that this is for busy humans. And it came about because I found that I had slipped gradually over time. So, kind of that way that you don't notice, I had slipped out of my consistent intentional mindfulness practices, right? There was still um, other ones happening, but I had slipped out of the intentional time. And there's this element, I was speaking with someone yesterday, and there was this element of how do we start choosing what we need intentionally versus only what we want. And it's not that we can never have what we want, right? But sometimes what we need is to, I mean, the easiest example is to get up early and take that time out for ourselves. What we want is sleep. Sometimes what we need is sleep, right? So it's not always going to be, well, it's never going to be this cut and dry, this is exactly what we're doing kind of thing. But if we can start to come to our decisions around how we use our time, our limited time, because it's such a precious resource and we tend to be so scarce in it. But if we can come to that intentional decision each time of how we use our limited time, we are going to get more of what we need, which will automatically create more of what we want. So just chew on that a little, let it percolate. If it didn't land immediately, just see what happens. It landed for me, so that's why I'm sharing it. But for today's practice, I know some people, myself included, work a little better when there's something tactile that we're working with. So I find that using some kind of physical, um, kind of a prompt, I guess, is really, really helpful for when I might feel resistant to doing mindfulness or just distracted or whatever it is. As always, if you are driving or doing something else that requires your attention, especially for safety purposes, you make sure you are paying attention to what you need to for safety purposes, right? So there's an alternate way that you can kind of do this, but you need to decide how that works for you because I'm not in your brain and I'm not in your body, and I need you to be safe while you're practicing this. If you are in a space where you can just pause and do this, then great. I'll try to throw some alternative suggestions as we go. But we're working with our just our equal breath, but we're going to use our fingers. So I'll demonstrate it visually for those of you in this live with me, but for those of you on the podcast, so that you understand and grasp it. Don't do it yet. I'll explain it first, and then we will do the practice. All right, because those listening might have a different practice to those being able to pause and actually do. So what we will do, we're using we'll have both hands and just connect one. So let's start your right thumb and index finger. You'll be taking a breath in just by connecting it. And then for your breath out, you'll connect your right thumb and middle finger. And then your next breath in, right thumb and ring finger. Next breath out, right thumb and little finger. And then your awareness goes to the next side. Left thumb and index finger take a breath in. Left thumb and middle finger for the breath out, just connecting. So you're swapping fingers. Left thumb and ring finger, breath in. Left thumb and little finger, breath out. So what this does, it's 4 breaths. I just had to count. It's 4 breaths, I believe. But what it does is it allows your brain to sort of have that physical stimulus of focus, right? So it's like when you're trying to work a muscle, or you're trying to activate a muscle in a workout. And if you're going slowly enough, you can kind of maybe like put your hand on that muscle just to identify and go, this one. And your brain's like, oh, yeah, okay, I can engage that one. It's a little bit like that, but we're not trying to work out. We're just trying to breathe. But it gives your brain a little job to do, so to speak. So that way it might help a little bit more. So we're about to start. Okay. So wherever you are, if you were driving, for example, you choose what works for you, but instead of obviously using your hands, you may just put pressure down on that finger that we're talking about while your hands are on the wheel, while you're paying attention to the road and your surroundings, right? So that is what we're doing. But if you are wherever you are, I'm going to hold my hands up. You don't have to, but just for those who are watching the the video of this, just so you can see, but you don't have to hold your hands up. You can just relax them. But take your right thumb and index finger, or just put pressure down on your right index finger. Take a breath in. Swap it to your right thumb and middle finger, breath out. Swap it to your right thumb and ring finger, breath in. Right thumb and little finger, breath out. Other hand, right thumb and left thumb and index finger, breath in. Left thumb and middle finger, breath out. Left thumb and ring finger, breath in. Left thumb and little finger, breath out. And relax. Maybe take a breath. Just beautiful. That is the practice. And I know that's only 4 breaths. It's because I didn't want us to get too much into the pattern of it needing to be 5 or needing to be a certain amount. Sometimes that is just a really useful pause. I'm going to add on to that in coming days in a different way, but start there because it can just be this really useful way of going, I needing to breathe. And it's still subtle enough that you can do it around people and people won't necessarily know. You just take your breaths, but give yourself that gentle pressure through those fingers as a way of just grounding into your body a little bit, especially if you feel heightened. So that can be something that's really, really useful. You can do it once through. If you want to, you can do it more than once through, right? So if you want a few more breaths, do it more than once through. You could do 8 breaths, like do it twice through. You can do more than that. So there's no rule. Just allow yourself to use the tool as a way that just supports you to breathe or to have that pause or to have that moment of mindfulness. And when you take that full breath after you complete it, you might just start to notice, what feels really clear to me now? Where does my attention need to go to? What do I need? sometimes you start to get those answers when you take those moments, those pauses. So, thank you for joining me. I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will be live or sharing tomorrow with day 6.